welcome back to the Milk Carton series. I'm your host Stephanie. If you are new tuning in, and welcome back to Crime Miss, where we will have 15 days of discussing all kinds of crime stories, no matter what they are. So I had to do this video over because my Sims card decided to just do its own little funky thing, and I said I can't let my peeps down, so let's continue. Today's story, guys, is one of those stories I feel like truly began my love for crime, my love for forensics, not necessarily crime, but you know, the aspect of solving a crime and learning more about why people do the things that they do, and are crimes being solved, and how we can continue to spread the awareness of missing people. So today's story focuses on 24-year-old Tamika Huston, and you guys probably heard this story way back in 2004. This is when I first came across this story. I remember being a teenager. I was like 13 and a half, and I remember hearing about how she was missing and how her boyfriend, it had said to be that her boyfriend had buried her body. Yeah. So I think at 13 years old, I didn't really understand a whole lot of what forensics was, but it truly opened my mind to like the theory of learning about forensics in that sense. So let's begin. So on June 14th of 2004, Tamika's family basically began to wonder where she was, because Tamika, of course, was a grown woman. She was in nursing school. She had her own place. She had her own car. She was doing really great things with her life. And so her family didn't really worry when they did not hear from her. But when June came, it was like they got a little worried because they had not heard from her. And the last time one of her friends had seen her was around June 2nd. So no one really knew what was going on with Tamika. So of course their family begins to call law enforcement. They did a welfare check, and when they got to Tamika's home, there wasn't really any signs of a struggle, but there was some key items that were very odd that were left behind. Her cell phone, she had 3 uncashed checks, her driver's license, but her vehicle was actually gone. And that was strange. That was not really like Tamika. And it had said also that she had a dog and that she wouldn't just leave her puppy. So on June 20th, there was someone who lived in that apartment complex, called law enforcement, basically said that they had seen Tamika's vehicle outside. So law enforcement does what they do. They go and they begin to search the vehicle. They did get a partial fingerprint, but it wasn't enough to really like pull anyone, and it didn't match anyone's DNA in the national database. They also found a set of keys. It was on the passenger side, and these keys will kind of begin the journey of what happened to Tamika. And so they took these keys to a locksmith, and the locksmith noticed there was like a number on them or a design, and so they were able to pinpoint it to this Fairmount. They were able to pinpoint it to the Fremont School apartment. So when they went to the apartment complex, they tried all 46 apartments and none of them matched. But ironically, this key did match a storage door, and so law enforcement began to talk to the manager of this building. And it's crazy how he basically tells them, well, you know, when a person is evicted, basically they change out the doorknob so that way the person can't come back into the home. So this is what may have happened, because that key was to the storage room, so that storage knob was probably at the actual, you know, doorknob. So the manager then begins to give them all of the individuals who lived in the building and were evicted. And so the law enforcement then takes this list and asks Tamika's family if any of these names on this list ring a bell. And ironically, we come across Christopher Hampton. Christopher Hampton was Tamika's boyfriend or friend at the time, and they were dating. So when law enforcement found out that Hampton was a tenant at this building, he was actually serving time for violating his parole. But they did find out that he was out when Tamika went missing. So when they questioned him, he basically tells law enforcement that he didn't know where Tamika was, and that the last time he talked to her, he said that she was on her way to bike week, which is a complete lie. Though fingerprints didn't match Hampton, you know, law enforcement still believed that he was responsible for the disappearance of Tamika. Believe this because they received a phone call from Tamika's ex-girlfriend basically saying that when he got locked up, he wanted his wallet to be sent to her home. And when she got the wallet, there was a small speck of the blood on this wallet. Then it was another woman who basically told law enforcement that something was really off about Hampton and his apartment, because when they went into his apartment, it had like a brown reddish color in the master bedroom, and that the dresser was pushed up against the closet. So this was truly odd, as I guess how the whole scenario was set up. So this information came out actually about a year into the investigation of Tamika. And so when they went to do the search warrant for this apartment where he lived and got evicted at, you know, another family was living there. And so they had to basically pull the carpet up in order to see if in fact blood was, you know, on the carpet. And when they did do all of that, they did test his blood, and the blood did turn out to be Tamika's. So at this point, they then began to talk to Christopher Hampton again, and this is when he confesses to the murder of Tamika. He basically says the day was he was ironing his clothes, you know, and Tamika comes in. Tamika they basically had a relationship that wasn't steady. It was rocky because he gotten another woman pregnant, and that was really hurtful for Tamika, and so the relationship wasn't really strong at this point in time. So he says that Tamika wanted him all to himself, and that she was really devastated about this baby coming, and then she had asked him for some money. But I was just looking like, reading that like, what? And so I guess it was like tensions got very high, and so he decides that he wants to throw the iron at Tamika, and ironically it hits Tamika and it knocks her out unconscious. Like, why, if you claim you love someone so much, why in the hell would you do anything like that? Regardless if you're mad at them, why in the hell would you throw a hot ass iron or whatever at them, knowing that it could potentially harm them? And so let me tell you how trifling he is. So Tamika's knocked unconscious. She's basically not there. So he's like, well, he's apologizing, whatever. And so instead of him getting help for Tamika, he leaves her there. He goes out. He has sex with another woman who's 15, from what a report says. The criminal journal says it was a 15-year-old girl. Then he comes back, and Tamika's body is in the closet. Like, you put that girl in the closet. You love her though, but you stuffed her body in the closet. I'm not understanding that. If I do something and I know I did something wrong and I know I fucked up and I love this person, I'm gonna try to get them help. Like, apologizing in the same token, like, oh my God, like, I was upset, like, I just threw the iron, I didn't want anything to happen to him or whatever. I would not leave someone that I love in a motherfucking closet. You literally left someone you claim you love in a closet, bleeding out. She probably could have lived if you gotten her help and assistance. So then he agrees to show them where, in fact, Tamika's body is. He had buried her body in like this industrial area in South Carolina. And I apologize, I never said where this took place. It happened in Duncan, South Carolina. And so this is what another strange part in the story for me. He then says he came back and decapitated Tamika. This is someone you love. This is someone you wanted to be with. You know what I'm saying? You didn't want to be with her. You're having a whole nother baby on this girl, and she wasn't gonna stand for it. That's what that was. So he tells law enforcement that he didn't mean to kill her. You know, he apologized. He basically says he deserves to be in prison, but he feels like he deserves a second chance as well. He did plead guilty to the murder of Tamika He did plead guilty to the murder of Tamika, and he was sentenced to life in prison for what he did. He said, as I was looking into this case, I found out that Tamika's father and mother are now dead. They died in 2017, and it has been listed as a murder-suicide. There hasn't been any other information, but I thought that was so bizarre when I went to go like look up her name, and I seen that pop up. Like, I can't imagine being a father and of someone who is going missing, and how much guilt you probably hold on to. And regardless of what, you know, I don't want anyone to kill themselves, but you know, I try to put myself in their shoes and try to think of what they were thinking. And I can only imagine as a dad, as a mom, what he could be thinking. But it's sad that, you know, they both died. I believe that is her mother. I want to confirm, because I had only glanced at it, so I don't want to give out the wrong information. So I don't believe that it was Tamika's mother. It was his wife. It's so sad that, you know, that guilt. They say, like, an article I read, the father, like, he was never the same after his daughter's demise. And it's true. Losing someone, I can only imagine a child. I lost my parents. So to lose a child is like probably a whole nother different type of feeling that you have. But that's today's story, guys. That, you know, this story can touch you in some way, because Tamika lost her life. She had a bright future. She was planning to be a nurse, and her life was cut short at the tender age of 24 years old. So it's truly sad that Christopher felt the need to do what he did, regardless of the guilt that he has, you know, or he confessed. But you still took away someone's life, and it just doesn't bring them back. So guys, until the next story, I'll see you. As always, make sure you're staying safe, wash your hands, and drop any stories that you have for another video. Bye guys.